In the heart of an old forgotten town stands a theater, its grand stage now consumed by shadows and dust. This is the Crescent Hall, a place where applause once thundered, but now it's known for only one thing: the ghost of the dancing lady trapped forever in her final performance. Years ago, Crescent Hall was alive, and at its center was a dancer named Alara Voss. She was more than just a performer. She was a phenomenon. Graceful, radiant, and completely devoted to her art, people traveled from cities far and wide just to witness her magic on stage. But her fame wasn't without its dark side. Whispers followed her like a shadow, rumors of a dangerous obsession, of bitter jealousy, and a pact she made with something unseen to become the most captivating dancer in the world. Then came the storm. It was the night of her final show. As the orchestra swelled into the last haunting waltz, Alara began to spin. Faster and faster she went, her movements twisting into something unnatural, something wrong. Her eyes rolled back into her head, her mouth stretched into a silent, desperate scream. The audience watched, frozen in horror, as she collapsed in the middle of her spin. The velvet curtains fell, the lights flickered and died, and Alara Voss was declared dead before the show even had an encore. But her story didn't end there. In fact, it was only just beginning. After her death, the theater changed. Stage lights would flicker to life when the power was cut. The sharp, rhythmic tapping of heels could be heard echoing across the empty wooden stage long after midnight. And sometimes, if you were brave enough to look into the dusty mirrors backstage, you'd catch a glimpse of her reflection, a woman in crimson silk, still dancing, all alone. The town, terrified, sealed off Crescent Hall. For decades it remained untouched, a monument to a forgotten tragedy. But legends like these never truly die. A group of college students, fascinated by urban myths, decided to break the seal. They were making a documentary and wanted to capture proof of the ghostly dancer who refused to find her rest. There were 4 of them: Liam, the leader; Rachel, the documentarian; Tariq, the skeptic; and Sophie, the curious one. They arrived just after sunset, armed with cameras and flashlights, stepping into a world frozen in time. The air inside was thick and heavy, smelling of mildew and old faded memories. Torn posters of Alara's performances clung to the walls, her painted smile cracked and peeling with age. "Crescent Hall, 1952, Rachel whispered, her camera rolling. "Home to one of the most mysterious disappearances in dance history. Locals claim the spirit of Alara Voss still haunts this very stage." As they ventured deeper, Sophie found a dressing room door creaked slightly ajar. She pushed it open. Inside, it was like a time capsule. Makeup was scattered across the vanity, old perfume bottles glinting in her flashlight beam. And there, on the table, lay a single red ribbon, still tied in a perfect bow, next to a music box delicately carved with roses. Giving in to her curiosity, Sophie wound it up. A soft, delicate tune began to play, a familiar waltz. And that's when they heard it. Faintly at first, but then clearer. The sound of footsteps on the stage directly above them. Liam let out a nervous laugh. "It's probably just the wind," he said, but his voice trembled, betraying his fear. They made their way up to the main stage, where a single beam of moonlight pierced through a hole in the roof, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The music box melody seemed to follow them, even though Sophie was sure she had stopped it. Then, a spotlight, one that hadn't worked in 50 years, flickered on, casting a perfect circle of light on the center of the stage. And there she was. Alara Voss. She wore the same tattered crimson gown from her final performance, her body moving with a strange, impossible grace. Her arms floated through the air, her feet glided across the floorboards, but her head jerked at unnatural angles, like a puppet whose strings had been tangled. Beneath the shadow of her hair, her eyes were hollow pits, glowing with a faint crimson light. The group froze, paralyzed. Sophie gasped, the camera shaking in her hands. "Elara!" Tariq whispered, his skepticism vanishing in an instant. The dancer paused her ghostly performance. Slowly, she turned to face them. Her face was as pale as bone, her smile stretched far too wide. When she opened her mouth, no sound came out, only the chilling hiss of dead air and the phantom hum of an orchestra that wasn't there. Then she began to dance toward them. Each step was a deafening thud that echoed like a dying heartbeat. The sweet melody of the music box twisted and warped into a haunting, frantic dirge, growing faster and faster, as if the ghost was pulling them into her nightmarish performance. The students stumbled backward, desperate to escape. Liam tripped, crashing hard onto the dusty floor. When he looked up, Elara was standing right over him. She reached out a trembling hand, her fingers nearly transparent. Her lips moved, mouthing two silent words, "Dance with me." Liam screamed as her icy cold hand brushed against his face. In that instant, every light in the theater exploded, plunging them into absolute, suffocating darkness. The survivors scrambled out into the night, gasping for breath, their hearts pounding in their chests. It was only then that they realized the true horror of what had happened. Sophie was gone. Days later, the police searched Crescent Hall one last time. They found nothing but her camera, abandoned on the stage floor. The final recording told the whole story. It showed Sophie being pulled, as if by an invisible force, toward the stage. Her voice was a choked cry as the red figure spun violently around her, and in the very last frame, the perspective changed. Sophie was no longer behind the camera. If you love dark tales and urban legends, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the shadows. Stay safe out there.